This video is to show you some strategies to use to turn information that you find on the internet into your own words so that you are not stealing somebody else's thoughts. When you take somebody else's thoughts and act as if they are your own thoughts, that is called plagiarizing. So this video is to assist you to know some strategies so that you can change things to make them your own and so that you are not plagiarizing. So there are two key actions that you have to take when you are going to make something your own. The first key action is that you're going to make a change to all those words that you've read on the internet. You're going to change it up. And the second key action is that you are going to cite your sources. You're definitely going to have a list on your assignment which says the websites or the books that you used to get this information. So we can just summarize that the two key actions are change and cite. Okay, if you do those two things, then you're going to be able to make it your own. So there are actually three methods that people use for rewording, and they're sort of quite different from each other. And so I'm just going to mention them here because one of them might really suit you, and the other two you might just think that's not my thing at all. So the first method is where you sit and you work out what are the key words, what are the really important bits of information, and you build from there. And the second method is where you bring in a text from the internet and you paste it into a document, and then you keep a lot of it the same, but you put huge numbers of synonyms in and you move chunks around. That's called paraphrasing. And the third method is where you read the information that you've just learned. You then look away and you write it how you are experiencing it in your head, and you'll really only look back at that website or that book just to get correct spellings. So I'm not going to teach you much, anything really, about look away and write, because that's a very favorite strategy that a lot of people love. And that just means you take it all in, you turn away from the book or the screen, you basically get it down yourself, and then you just look back to get correct spellings. But I suppose the thing that is at the heart of all of these three methods really is that you have to decide what are the important words that you are reading, and they're called the keywords. So even whichever one of these three methods that you use, you are going to be making a decision about what is the information that really matters, and that is the set of keywords. So let's just look in detail at building sentences from keywords. That's going to be the main focus of this video. And there are 4 tricks to use when you're building sentences from keywords. You're going to put a lot of synonyms in. That's what you do with paraphrasing as well. So you put a lot of synonyms in, but you don't get rid of technical terms. You don't get rid of the scientific language. You leave that. You add in a lot of extra words of your own, extra information, and then that will really begin to make the change that you are wanting. You move chunks of information around, but I would say one of my best tips for success is that you actually kind of add in persuasive devices. Even though you're creating a factual text, you actually use some of your devices that you've learned in persuasive writing, because it really makes your writing have a sparkle, and it also changes the writing quite a bit from the original writing that you have brought in from the internet. So that's a bit of a secret ingredient, incorporating some persuasive devices. So when you're looking at a paragraph, let's say on the internet, and you bring it on in, the first thing to do is always notice what the topic sentence is saying, because it's the first sentence of the paragraph usually, and it is announcing the topic of the whole paragraph. So if you can notice what the topic sentence is actually saying, then you're going to be able to know that the rest of the paragraph will be a whole lot of details to back that up. So we can see here in this paragraph that this is about African elephants, that they shape their habitat in many ways. So we know that the whole rest of this paragraph is going to be details that show how they shape their habitat. So really get a grip on that topic sentence. And when you change into your own words, you need to keep your topic sentence being about the same big idea. So I've just gone in with a little bit of color coding here so you can understand how we find keywords. So the keywords in the topic sentence are shape their habitat. That's the big idea for the whole passage. But then these colored words here, they are actually the key words, the key bits of information that I found when I went through and I was looking for the absolute guts of what I was reading. So that's what I mean about finding keywords. You'll notice that they're often nouns. Not always, but they're often nouns. Sometimes there are some verbs in there. Dig up dry riverbeds, create watering holes. But there are a whole lot of nouns there. Dung, seeds, plants, forest, and so on. So I hope this is of help for you. This is how I went through and I found the keywords that I reckon pull out the meaning of this text. So let's have a look at another text, still about an African elephant. And I should say that both of these texts come from the World Wildlife Organization website. I should acknowledge that. And I should also say that the images that are on these slides are from Pixabay. And I've got in my PowerPoint presentation, there's a direct link through to the image. But actually on Pixabay, it does say these images do not need to be credited. So just to make you aware, that is why I have not put the image creator's name there, because it was the photographer's name was not listed in Pixabay. Anyway, so here we are looking at this African elephants passage. And of course, you can see that I've actually underlined the topic sentence, which sort of tells us about the fact that the African elephant is the largest animal walking the earth. Now, I've only given you a small part of that paragraph, but actually the big bulk of that paragraph is all about a description of body parts, actually, of the African elephant. So this is just the first bit of that paragraph. So you can see here that I've gone through and I've sucked out the keywords. Largest animal walking, their herds, 37 countries, Africa, trunk, communication, handling objects, large ears, radiate excess heat. So this is a really fundamental thing to do with information that you are pulling in off the internet. It's so easy for you to be able to go through and just, you don't even have to put all different colors like I have. I've done different colors for each sentence, but you can just do yellow and it just will alert you to what the key information is that you're going to have to play with, because you just can't copy and paste what you found. You have to take those keywords and you need to make changes. So the two key aspects are change and cite. You have to basically change things and you have to list where you found the information. So from the keywords on the last slide, a student had a go at making their own rewording. And so what I really liked here is that the student changed largest to enormous. So they pulled in a synonym. They got rid of the verb walking. So they changed it a little bit there. So you can see actually that this person is largely doing what we call paraphrasing, which is kind of leaving things mainly the same and just sticking in some synonyms. But excitingly, this student added a rhetorical question. Did you know that 37 countries in Africa have herds of African elephants? So that's using a persuasive device there. So then they go on and they're just largely you know, using the information straight from the passage, except that what they've done here is that they've changed large ears to massive ears, and then they've added extra words at the end to cool them down. So this is a very, very simple starting point where a student is beginning to understand how to change things into their own words. And this student is not doing a bad job because they're just beginning in year 2. So I'm pretty proud of them actually. But I want to show you we can go a lot further than this and use a lot more tricks. So I'd say that this student has begun to use some synonyms, enormous and massive, and that they have added a rhetorical question and a couple of few extra words, but they could go a lot further to make their writing look very changed. So let's see here. On the left, we've got the original passage, and on the right, we've got a passage that is trying to look a lot different. The African elephant is the most enormous land-dwelling animal on our planet. These magnificent beasts make their way in herds across 37 African countries. Their huge flapping ears enable them to deflect excess heat, so they stay cool in extreme temperatures. Did you know their trunks act as handy tools for lifting branches and are also useful for communicating with other animals in the herd? So there's a lot more difference happening here than in the year 2 students sample. So let's have a look in a little bit of detail about the tricks that have been used. So first of all, the topic sentence that starts the whole paragraph off is still dealing with the same main idea, which is that the African elephant is basically the largest creature on earth. So the topic sentence has stayed the same, except that in this paragraph, the information about the ears has been moved into the middle from the end, and the information about trunks has been moved to the end. And so that's what I mean when I say move chunks around. Feel comfortable to move chunks around and change up the order of information. Now, whenever you see yellow here, this is where synonyms have been used, and that's just a really standard thing to use. But we also have to remember to keep our technical terms, herds, excess heat. We can't change everything into synonyms. Some of it's got to sound a bit like a geography passage. But the blue here is extra information that was not in the original passage. So in the original passage, we learned that their big ears, bounce off the excess heat. But here, extra information has been added so that they stay cool in extreme temperatures. And also, extra information has been added down the bottom to say that they communicate with other animals in the herd. So the trick of putting in extra information and the trick of putting in emotive words like magnificent, handy, and useful, these are our persuasive writing ideas, like this rhetorical question, did you know? So I really suggest that you incorporate some strong emotive language, a rhetorical question, address the reader. And even though this is a factual paragraph, by putting in these persuasive techniques, it's just changing it up a lot more. So to return to the 2 main actions that you have to do to make it your own, remember that when you're rewording, you want to see a change. Okay, you can achieve this by adding your own knowledge or combining information from different sources. And we really need to see some changed words. Okay, but there's a second key action. You must cite your sources. You must put at the end of your assignment where you got your information from. This is sometimes called the references list or the bibliography. It's sometimes called the citations. So there's going to be another video about how to do referencing, how to do citing. But I hope this video has been useful in giving you some techniques for rewording.